All right, welcome back. We're going to go ahead and talk about modeling with piecewise and composite functions. But we're first going to talk about piecewise functions because they're our favorite. So these are just helpful hints that you can use. You don't have to use these, but this is kind of the order I like to create a model for a piecewise function. So I first like to identify the intervals where the model differs. I like to determine an equation for each of those intervals, and then I combine it into one big piecewise. And once we do a problem like that, I'll show that process. First, let's talk about this gas usage. This information right here in the middle is really the most important stuff. So this is the gas usage rate schedule for customers. And there are three portions of it. So you've got your monthly charge. Oops. We've got our monthly charge, customer charge, at $6.45 every month. We've also got the distribution charge, and then we have our gas supply charge. So notice the monthly charge is always going to stay consistent. It doesn't matter how much you use or whatever, you're always going to pay $6.45. The distribution charge, what this is saying is for the first 20 therms you use, you'll go at this first rate. This next 30 therms, you'll have this other rate, and the over 50 therms, we'll have this last rate down here. Okay, so that's going to be important. We're first going to just make sure we actually understand how this schedule works. So I'm going to match the colors when I write them down. So we're going to go ahead and find the charge for using just 40 therms, assuming I use 40 therms this month. So you start with the monthly customer charge. So I'm doing that in red, $6.45. In blue, I'll do the distribution charges. So for the first 20 therms, so we're using 40, so we're going to use all 20 of those first 20. We're going to use this rate. The next 30 therms from beyond that, so there are 20 left over, so all 20 of the leftovers, you're going to use this second rate right here. And then last but not least, you go to the gas supply charge. The gas supply charge just uses whatever the usage is for the month. You used all of those therms. So all 40 therms are going to have this exact same cost per therm. In the end, you're just going to go ahead and type that all into your calculator. And luckily for you, you don't have to wait for me to type all that in. I have the answer right here. You get $41.78. Also, just so you know, I don't think I mentioned this, but this comes from your textbook. It's on page 116, number 48. Some of the problems we're going to be doing in this lesson are actually going to come straight from your homework. So let's go ahead and just make sure we understand that formula again. So for 202 therms, the monthly charge still stays the same, so $6.45. And then we're going to our distribution charge. So we're going to be using all 20 of the first 20 therms. And we're going to be using that first initial rate. And then 202 is way bigger than 50 because the next 30 therms would be up to 50 therms. So we're going to be using the next 30 therms all the way up. Now, notice we've used 50 total therms. So 202 minus 50 will give us 152. So that's our remaining number of therms. So 152, you're going to charge them at this final rate. And then last but not least, we have our gas supply charge. That's for all 202 therms, and it's 0.7268. So we put that all together, we type it into our calculator. As long as you type it in correctly, you get $166.32. Okay, so now we're actually going to learn how to model it. So we're going to go to part C of this same problem. I kept everything right there. We need to figure out how to model. So the first thing I do is figure out my intervals. So the intervals, there are 3 of them, if you noticed. And there are these 3 right here. So the first 20 therms would be the interval from 0 all the way up to 20, and it's including 20. Our second interval will be from 20 to 30, but we're not 20 to 30, 20 to 50, because it's the next 30 therms beyond the 20. We do not include the 20, but we do include 50. And then our last interval is any above 50. So we've got our 3 intervals. We're going to go ahead and write an equation for each one of those intervals. Okay, so, and I'm just going to go ahead and write them down here, and then we'll put it all together. So equation number 1 is for the first 20 terms. I'm going to go ahead and use the same colors I used before, so I'll just, and boop, there we go. So, regardless of how many terms you use, 645 is going to stay the same. Then your distribution charge is going to be that, because you're only using 20 terms. And then your gas supply charge, you just do 0.7268 times x, because it's per therm. And that's your first equation. So I would just combine like terms. You have these 2 like terms. I have already done so. So you have 0.928x plus 6.45 as equation number 1. All right, let's go to equation number 2. Equation number 2, you're still going to have that same monthly charge, but we're doing over 20 therms. So that means we'll have used all 20 of those first 20. And then we'll have our second rate of 0.1117, but we've already used 20, so we're going to take x and subtract 20 away from that, because we've got to take out how many we've used. And then, once again, oops, should be green. The 0.7268x will stay the same because it does not matter how many therms you use. So once again, I have already simplified that. I've combined like terms, multiplied everything out. You get 0.8385x plus 8.24. And then hopefully you're seeing kind of the process. It would be good if you try to do the last one on your own. You can like pause, but I'll go ahead and start working on it. So you have that 0.645, and now we're over 50 therms. So we've for sure used all 20 of the first section. We've used all 30 of the next section. And then you would do 0.0374, and you'd multiply that by x minus 50, because we've used 50 therms up. And then once again, you just put your gas supply charge. 68x. And you would simplify and there you would have it. So your final answer would look like so. They want c of x. So I'm going to write it as c of x. So c, so cost in terms of x terms, will be 0. So I'm going to start with this first one right here. 0.9, oops. There you go. 0.928x plus 6.45. And then that would be from 0 to 20. And then we'll do our next one, which I'll just make this easier on myself. So I'm going to copy that and put that right here, and we'll be using this interval. I'll just put that right there. So notice I'm just literally piecing it all together, and then we'll use our last one and put that right down here, and we've got, oops, our, if I can get my interval. I accidentally grabbed it too much, but that's okay. I'll erase it. And there's our last one. So there is your function right there. That was a joy, I know. So much fun. Let's just talk about part D. I don't want to do part D. I do believe this is a homework problem, but graphing this, you can just graph it however you want. Just be aware that these right here are just straight lines. And when it comes to straight lines, you literally can just plug in So like for instance, this first one, I'd plug in 0 for x, which is 645. So I'd plot like 645 right there. And then I'd plug in 20 for x. I'd figure out what that is. I don't know what it is, but once you figure it out, you'd plot wherever it is and then just draw a straight line. And then do the same thing for the next one. So super easy. I don't need to go over that.